Saturday, for 59 a.m. David sat motionless, eyes fixed on the screen. The final red candle had just closed on the 1-hour chart accrual period at the end of a brutal week. The clock blinked for 59 a.m. Saturday. The market was officially closed. No more price movements. No more charts to read. Nothing left but stillness, and in that stillness a quiet, unbearable weight. A clicking sound echoed as the chart froze. It was like something inside him had been switched off. No more candles. No more sounds. Only silence, thick, suffocating, inescapable. The world outside paused for the weekend. But inside David's mind, the market never closed. It stayed wide open, chaotic, noisy, relentless. He let go of the mouse, leaned back, and half closed his eyes. The pale light from the screen painted shadows across his tired face, reflecting the storm within. The only sounds in the room were the hum of the air conditioner and faint traffic from distant streets. He had closed all the analysis tabs, all the news channels, all the trading groups. But one thing refused to shut down the gnawing guilt inside. This week hadn't been a stumble. It had been a collapse. EUR USD pair faked a breakdown. He shorted the bottom. Price reversed violently, stopped out. Then came the revenge trades, chasing losses, fighting the trend. Then gold, his so-called safe haven, wiped out 5% of his account in a single night, thanks to an unexpected political headline that wasn't on any calendar. 6 trades, 1 break-even, 5 losses. His journal had become a battlefield, pages littered with crossed-out entries and curses aimed at no one but himself. He flipped back to Monday, a message in bold red ink. Be disciplined. 3 days later, another line scrawled in frustration. Why did I do this again? He asked himself. Why do I keep going? It had been for years since he walked away from the bank job and into this dream of financial freedom. Back then, he was full of hope, unlimited income, time freedom. Just a laptop and an internet connection. The slogans from trading forums were gospel. But reality was nothing like the promo videos. Especially not on Saturday mornings like this when the charts stop. But the mind keeps spinning. He paced the room like a caged animal, opened the window, took a deep breath. The Saigon night air was still thick with dust and exhaust. He used to love weekends. They meant freedom, coffee with friends, wandering through the city. But now, weekends were empty. No charts, no trades, just silence and reflection. If only the market stayed open one more day, he muttered. Then he laughed bitterly. Would it have changed anything? Saved his account or just dragged him deeper? His phone buzzed. A message from Can, his last remaining lifeline. Still up. It's Saturday. Come grab a beer. Time to reset. David stared at the message. Typed a few words. Deleted them. In the end, he didn't reply. He didn't have the strength to pretend everything was okay. He opened his trading journal again. Earlier that week, he had written, breakout scenario, fake support. Wait for divergence confirmation and volume drop before selling. Beneath that, greedy mistake. Bold, red, final. He closed his eyes. The trade replayed in his head. He should have waited 15 more minutes. Shouldn't have gone so heavy, should have. But should have didn't matter anymore. Time dragged on. No signals, no decisions, just existing. People say weekends are for rest, but for David, they were 2 days of punishment. 2 days when he couldn't act, could only relive every mistake. He turned the computer back on, then turned it off. Not now. Not like this. He sat in silence. Not the peaceful kind. The kind that presses against your chest and refuses to let go. The air conditioner hummed, but his thoughts howled. Each loss replayed like a film on loop. The fake EUR/USD breakdown. The impulsive short. The brutal reversal. Gold draining 5% of his account. Why? Why repeat mistakes he already knew? He had studied this craft. He knew the setups. He knew the risks. Then why did he feel so lost? He looked out the window. The sky was still black. Streetlights reflected in puddles. He remembered how it all began, the thrill of that first win. The belief that this path could lead to something better. But now, the strategies felt distant. The indicators meaningless. Everything was noise. The market is full of surprises. Even the best traders get blindsided. And David, despite all the books, the courses, the mentors, still couldn't master the one thing that mattered most: his own emotions. He gripped the edge of his chair. Can I really change? Maybe he needed to. Maybe the problem wasn't the market. Maybe it was how he approached it. Maybe it was time to begin again. Learn patience. Accept failure. Start fresh. David stood up, opened the balcony door. Let the cool dawn air wash over him. The world was waking up. Voices from street vendors. Cars rolling through wet streets. Normal life. But to David, it all felt far away. He closed his eyes, breathed deeply. Maybe it was time to rest. Not just his body, but his spirit. Maybe I've been too tense, he whispered. He couldn't keep dragging these failures with him. He had to let go, make space to grow again. Have I been too hard on myself? Yes, he always expected perfection. But no one's perfect in this game. Not at first, not ever. Failure isn't the end. It's part of the road. What matters is this: you stand back up. He thought about his friends, those who had never tried trading. They had no idea about the kind of stress he faced each day. They couldn't understand the pressure of making split-second decisions that could mean gain or loss. They didn't know the feeling of watching a trade go wrong, or the sleepless nights spent worrying over past mistakes. I'll try again, David whispered to himself, quiet but firm. He knew this path was far from easy, but giving up wasn't an option. He had invested too much time, effort, and emotion to walk away now. If he didn't try again, he would never know how far he could go. Finally, David shut down his computer and stepped out of his small room. His mind needed rest. He had to let things settle. Resting is not quitting, he reminded himself as he walked outside. The sky was beginning to brighten, the sounds of the day slowly returning. Maybe now was the time to reset, to begin again, not with desperation, but with calm and clarity. If you've made it this far, and this story resonates with you, don't forget to like and help spread its message. If you know someone who needs to hear this, share it with them so they won't have to walk this road alone. Thank you. David once sat there in the darkness of an early Saturday morning. In that silent room, there were only sighs and a head full of what-ifs. What if he hadn't entered that trade so quickly? What if he hadn't overtraded? What if he had just followed the plan? All the what-ifs couldn't save the account, but they weighed heavily on his heart. And the truth is, this isn't just David's story. Maybe it's the story of many. Have you ever felt that even when the market closes, your mind keeps trading? That even when the week ends, your emotions remain stuck in the charts and numbers? Weekends for traders aren't always a relief. Sometimes they're the hardest part because there's nothing left to do, only to face what's already been done. We've all looked back at our trading journals in disappointment, regretting entries that broke the plan, trades we held for no reason, or moments we completely lost control. We've asked ourselves, I knew better. Why did I still do it? Why was I so reckless in that moment? And sometimes we avoid opening the charts not because we're busy, but because we don't want to face what they reveal. They're no longer just price charts. They've become mirrors reflecting our lack of discipline, our impatience, and sometimes our ego. Have you ever spent time reviewing your trades and notes not to analyze the market, but to analyze yourself? Do you remember what it felt like to hold a losing trade and then immediately enter another, just to make it back? Was that part of a strategy or just a reactive impulse? If someone you respected sat beside you and reviewed every trade you took, every time you ignored your plan, would you feel proud? Maybe we've watched too many technical analysis videos, studied too many strategies, but never learned to sit quietly and truly listen to ourselves. The weekend forces silence not by choice, but by design. And in that silence, another space opens up, a space to reflect, to grow. Can we be honest enough to admit that most of our mistakes didn't come from the market but from within? From greed, from impatience, or simply from exhaustion that we kept pushing through? The weekend isn't a punishment, it's a chance. A chance to correct not on the charts, but in our thinking, in our systems, in how we approach the market. And one final question. If next week you could start again, not just with your account, but with your mindset, how would you approach trading? Would you have the courage to change? To let go? To adjust? To relearn from the beginning? Or would you fall into the same cycle, hoping for a different result? In this journey of being a trader, many of us have gone through a phase where trading consumes everything: our time, our energy, even our relationships. When was the last time you had dinner with family without secretly checking your charts? Have you ever been in the middle of a conversation with friends yet your mind was stuck on support and resistance levels? Sometimes we think we're working hard when we're actually drifting further away from life's simplest, most precious things. We forget that we used to enjoy reading. We used to like wandering in the park. We used to call old friends just to catch up. We once had morning jogging routines, weekend music sessions, or quiet moments just sipping tea with no phone in hand. Trading didn't take those away. We put them aside, telling ourselves, once I'm profitable, once I make it, then I'll start living again. But life doesn't wait for profit. It flows on day by day, moment by moment, regardless of your wins or losses. Have you ever asked yourself, if I stopped trading tomorrow, how many real connections would I still have? And what if spending more time with loved ones, with yourself, didn't make you weaker as a trader but made you stronger? When your mind is nourished by kindness, by peace, clarity, and intuition become sharper. You no longer trade out of frustration or loneliness or the pressure to prove something. You start choosing your trades, your timing, your reactions with a quiet heart and a clear mind. Have you ever tried closing the charts a little earlier at the end of the day? Have you set the phone down on the weekend just to read a good book or make a warm cup of tea? Or simply lay down, doing absolutely nothing? Sometimes, doing nothing is the most essential thing. Learning to balance doesn't mean giving up trading. It means returning trading to its rightful place, a part of life, not all of it. If one day we find success in the market, but have lost ourselves, what would it really mean? What if we could learn to restructure our day's time to analyze, time to trade, and time to live, love, and rest? Couldn't our performance improve as well? Balance isn't a destination. It's a continuous adjustment. When we're tired, we rest. When our mindset is unstable, we pause. When emotions flare up, we slow down. Remember, the market will always be there, but time with those we love won't. Let weekends be more than account recovery. Let them be soul recovery. As the weekend winds down, there's no longer that old restlessness. No longer the urge to chase missed entries. Instead, we begin to look ahead, not with revenge, but with rebirth. A calmer version of ourselves. One that knows itself better. One that remembers what truly matters. And have you noticed? When your mind is well rested, you analyze better. You set more realistic goals. You become more patient with each small decision. When you stop carrying the weight of needing to recover your account, you begin to view the market not as an opponent to defeat, but as a conversation to engage in. And in the quiet of the weekend, maybe what we need isn't more study or deeper analysis, but a warm cup of coffee, a soft playlist, and a chart-free morning to reflect. What did I truly learn this past week? What emotion is driving me most right now? What do I really want from trading? Sometimes the answer doesn't arrive immediately, but in asking the question we begin to awaken. We start rewriting our trading plan calmly, honestly. We accept that some weeks we win and some weeks we lose. And what makes us grow is not the outcome, but how we respond to it. Maybe we're still making mistakes, but at least now we make them with awareness. We fail, but we know when to stop and learn. We fall short, but we no longer harshly blame ourselves. We stumble, only to realize that trading is not just a journey of skills, but of the mind and of character. And hey, if you've ever fallen, ever doubted yourself, ever thought of quitting, you're not alone. We've all had days like that. But if you're still listening to these words, it means you haven't given up. It means somewhere inside you, a flame is still burning. Maybe it's flickering, maybe it's weak, but it's still alive. And that alone is enough to begin again, to take the next step. Trading is a strange profession. It has no office, no boss, no co-workers to cheer you on or managers to give you direction. You're alone facing the screen, the numbers, the decisions no one else can make for you. But because of that, every step forward is a victory of you over yourself. And sometimes the true victory isn't in a string of winning trades, but in your ability to face yourself, to take a break when you need it, to admit when you're wrong, and to begin again with more kindness and more wisdom. If this weekend you allow yourself to pause, to breathe, to live, to reconnect with what truly matters, then you're already on the right path. Not walking away from trading, but walking closer to the best version of yourself as a trader. Because in the end, the greatest breakouts don't just happen on the charts, they happen within your own mind. And if you've stayed with me until this very moment, thank you. Thank you for walking alongside me through this quiet, honest journey. Thank you for giving your time, for opening your heart, for being willing to reflect on parts of yourself that most people never speak about. I'm not a teacher. I'm just someone who's walked a little further, someone who's been broken by the market, who's made mistake after mistake, and paid the price more times than I can count. I don't share these thoughts to teach. I share them to remember, to remind myself, and maybe to reach someone out there who still feels lost. If that's you, I hope this gave you something to hold on to. And if you're ready, truly ready to take the next step, then come with me. Let's continue together.